¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. Hey, Astro, how's it going? Keep speaking truth to power and the seriously heart of thinking. Well, we're trying. Sorry about that, folks. Just, had to make sure I got my coffee. How's everybody doing? Hey Tendera, how's it going? So I found out that I have the same take on as Cardi B on the Russia-Ukraine situation. Oh man, what? What is her take? The gray day and getting colder. Oof. That's a tip. That's So what you're saying is typical London day, yeah? She has a standard safe take. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, in February, is that normal? Which is NATO equals bad, Putin equals bad. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that we can say what we've done has had an effect on what happens, but it doesn't take away responsibility from Putin. This would not be happening if Trump had not trashed NATO. What? I'm not sure that this has anything to do with Trump. This has so basically the USSR doesn't exist anymore. And the whole point of NATO existing is to keep the US or was to keep the USSR in check. It turns out the USSR is no longer. So all this has been doing is laying the groundwork for antagonism and giving excuses, which Putin has gladly taken advantage of, using excuses such as security threats, which, to be quite frank, from his perspective, maybe. Although I don't see any of these countries invading Russia, but nonetheless, security concern is somewhat underneath all that is somewhat legitimate. But it's being used as a pretext for him to do what he wants. Hey Alio, how's it going? So I unfortunately watched a video. I think it was tangentially. I think it was a video on the takedown of the quartering, and now my YouTube recommended. Now the quartering has infiltrated my YouTube recommended, and it's really annoying. Oh my goodness. Check this out, chat. I want to see if Google Earth would hide oil spills, so I looked at the Gulf and it looks bad. What? Oh my god. Ooh. Can you send me a link to that, Dendera? Well, actually, maybe we could search it. Google Earth. Just looks gross off the coast of Texas. Like in the Gulf Coast. Gotcha. Is this green stuff water? Is this green stuff water? Jesus. Sometimes governments and companies pay to have stuff blurred out, so I wanted to see. Yeah, but is this what we're seeing here? Is that green, kind of like gray green stuff? Is that water? Is that oil? The brown stuff is oil. Oh my goodness. Was there a recent oil spill? Not that I know of. This is just how it is. That's even worse. Jesus. Yeah, if you can find an exact location later, that would be cool. We can check it out at some point or tomorrow. Yikes. me start gathering myself together. Hey, I like pie. How's it going? Morning, morning. So tired. I hope you're doing well. Same. I am tired. This is why we have coffee. Alright, folks, unfortunately, this came in my recommended, so if I had to suffer, you do too. Did you know there's an oil spill? There's an oil well in the Gulf of Mexico that has been spilling oil for years. It's a company went out of business when it broke. Jesus Christ. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case with multiple companies. With multiple oil wells. And then we're the ones that have to foot the bill for companies' destructive actions.
This topic next coming up is what's going on, everyone? This topic next coming up is why
Cheers.
does Joe Rogan's podcast keep disappearing? It disappeared again today. We were told last week that it was a technical glitch, whatever that means, and ultimately it's questionable. Is it some rogue Spotify employee? Is it really a technical glitch? It's difficult to say,
I'm
but
just
it's
asking
happening at such a
questions.
frequency that it's hard to believe that it's just a quinky dink. Also,
It's
a
hard to
revealing
believe
bit of information.
that it's hard to believe that a company could have technical difficulties. So I'm just going to insert my conspiratorial mentality into this. Okay. Needless to say, the podcast didn't go anywhere. Spotify didn't pay $200 million for that podcast to disappear.
About Joe Rogan's reaction to members of the UFC backing him after there was an attempt to get him canceled. I don't know what's going on with the JRE. It's really bizarre. This is the second time it's disappeared from site on
Bro. Take 5 seconds to check before you spew conspiratorial nonsense to milk viewers for money.
on Spotify, and it's almost, I'm just starting to think that it's more than just a
I forget just how garbage this channel is.
technical glitch, but We'll get into that after a super quick word from this video sponsor.
Nope.
Huge tease.
Nope.
Foremost, it's veteran ownership.
Nope.
Meta also employs
Nope.
military. You don't have to get comp.
Nope.
Not only do you
Nope.
for when you're ready for a new PC. That promo code in your pocket for when you're ready for a new
Nope.
PC. Now, this is via Newsweek just moments ago. Joe Rogan's podcast keeps mysteriously disappearing from Spotify.
Mysteriously
So Joe Rogan
disappearing.
experience at the center of fierce controversy over censorship and misinformation.
Yes.
Briefly disappeared from Spotify on Monday for, quote, unexplained reasons. This is the second time in just a few days where the entire podcast mysteriously vanished. For a short time on Friday, on February 21st, Spotify users were unable to access the show from streaming platform's website, the iPhone app, or the Android app. The show now appears to be available again, and it's not quite sure why it vanished.
So it's not gone. And if this guy took 5 seconds to just do a little bit, like just the bare minimum of research, it looks like it happened to several shows.
But the disappearance is certainly noteworthy given the controversy around the podcast and its host, which is under fire for hosting quote-unquote misinformation. This, of course, on the heels of the media finding out that they actually paid him $200 million and not only $100 million, and that just can't stand. The Joe Rogan Experience is exclusively available on Spotify, with Rogan famously signing a reported $200 million deal. Earlier this month, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek confirmed that Rogan himself had removed 113 of his past episodes from the platform over his use.
So this wasn't a company decision. He wasn't canceled. He wasn't censored. He made this decision himself.
Use of spicy words in old installments, as well as episodes with, quote, controversial guests that were removed in 2021. Spotify has maintained support for their flagship show despite intense criticism. Monday's brief disappearance is not the first time the show vanished from the platform. Last week, Friday, February 18th, the podcast also vanished from Spotify, but reappeared minutes later. At the time, a spokesperson said for the streaming giant,
yeah, a number of the shows and should be resolved soon. Yeah, like it's right there, dude. How do you make a 12-minute video on basically a nothing burger? The same thing goes for this person who made this article. The same thing goes for this person who made this article. This is literally a nothing burger. This is like a 12 minutes and 12 minutes and 50 seconds that I will not get back.
It's a technical issue affecting a number of our shows, and it should be resolved soon, the spokesperson told the New York Post.
Why is this a news article?
I was able to...
Who paid to write this? Why? Nobody cares. It was a technical blip that affected multiple shows, and if you took 5 seconds, you would realize that he is still there. Rogan can't be gone. Rogan loves it too much. No, Spotify paid $200 million. He's not going anywhere.
Independently verify that JRE was not the only show missing. Several high-profile artists, including Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, have recently removed their music that nobody cares about,
0.50,
saying, Spotify represents 60% of my streaming of my music to listeners around the world, Young said in a statement, and my record label stood with me, and blah, 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 blah. Don't care about you.
What? Hey,
What's
that's kind of important.
Though, is, you know, as these people keep pointing out that he is spreading quote-unquote misinformation,
which
he
is
brought
true.
A health expert on, and a climate scientist, just the other day, and their reaction to the idea of debating things was curious to say the least. I watched the clip in real time, and he refused.
It's not about just debate. Whoa, that's a gross mischaracterization, buddy. First of all, does he have health insurance? I'm genuinely concerned, because that pivot is concerning on the joints there, my friend. You should watch that hip. So just to be clear, because we covered this story, just to be clear, he isn't against the idea of debate. He is against the idea of legitimizing quackery. It's basically what he's against.
Around climate. During the interview, Joe Rogan asked his guest if he had ever debated anyone over climate change. Dessler said he debated a skeptic once, scientist Richard Lindzen, over a decade ago, but it was terrible and he vowed he would never do it again. Quote, my feeling is that I won't debate the science. So the science is set, he stated.
True.
The temperature is warming. Humans have caused it.
True.
I'm happy to debate policy because I think policy needs to be debated, he added. Rogan pushed back on his guest, asking why he would be unwilling to debate a scientist who disagreed with him.
Yeah,
That is
we
a good
literally
question.
went over this article. I don't understand how this has to do with Rogan disappearing off Spotify. But, you know, you got to make those bucks. Got to make sure that video is 12 minutes above 10 minutes, right, Jeremy? I'm not watching The Gathering anymore. In my opinion, it's silly. Whoa. What? Magic the Gathering is silly? Now that's malarkey.
The question is it the science or is it the science? You know, because the latter seems to be
All right.
Please clap.
changing every once in a while as we learn more information. See, I'm not so like worn down by all this where I can't accept like a reasonable explanation. Like, hey, we got more information, things changed, and now things are different.
Yeah, that's basically it. Hey, look at that. That's basically it. He's the quartering. He's not the gathering.
Come right out and say, I'm unwilling to even debate it. That's concerning to me because this dude worked for the Clinton administration.
Oh, Lord. This is like conspiratorial. Listen, there is no point in attempting to convince a flat earther that the earth is oval shaped. There's legitimately no point in attempting to convince a flat earther that the world is oval shaped. That's it. That's his argument. According, that's his moniker. Yeah, that's his channel name. 1 million subscribers.
Rogan pushed back, asking why he'd be unwilling to debate a scientist who disagreed with him when it would be beneficial to the public who doesn't know who to trust these days.
Except you're legitimizing quackery. This is 100% one-to-one analogous to saying like to Joe Rogan saying like, oh well, I don't understand. The public could be very, very confused. We need to make sure that we have a flat earther in the same room as a NASA scientist to debate whether or not the Earth is round, because it would be beneficial to the public. Like what? No. I'm not watching a quarter anymore. It is silly, but unfortunately, someone ruined my damn recommendations. Now I have to.
The podcast host references work the week prior to Steve Koonin, a physicist who worked with the Obama administration, who says that science on climate is not settled, and the media exaggerates it.
Except the problem is Steve Koonin. This is like Joe Rogan is just absolutely incapable of handling these conversations. Steve Koonin was the chief scientist at BP. It's his job to make sure that people get confused about climate change. He literally worked for the oil industry. That's not. This is the problem with attempting to platform quackery. The public doesn't know who Steve Koonin is. They just see that, oh yeah, he's like a scientist kind of dude, and he worked for the government, so therefore he might be trustworthy. And Joe Rogan is not equipped to handle this. He has no idea. And if he has no idea, then maybe he shouldn't be doing it.
But Dowser claimed it would be too burdensome and time-consuming to, quote, fact-check someone who disagreed with him in real time. After Rogan disagreed, saying that there would be clear parameters set for an effectiveness and clarity, Dowser still wouldn't budge, saying that he would only debate policy changes.
Yeah, because then you start muddying the waters. That's the problem. You start muddying the waters.
To make the fight against man-made climate change. I think you overestimate the ability to settle issues in a debate, Belzer told Rogan. So they don't even want to talk about it, right?
It's not, no.
They don't
that's
want to
not-
talk about it.
That's not it. No.
You know,
Wrong.
I don't understand it because science is always evolving and changing as we get more information.
Yes.
But, you know, it's weird. It's weird. Oh, yeah, the Rolling Stone has an article trending that says, mega chuds to Ukraine drop dead. Exactly. Remember the Rolling Stone wrote about music?
What?
Now they just endlessly obsess about Joe Rogan. During a recent podcast, though, Andrew Schultz revealed that Joe Rogan cried after getting a endorsement.
What?
From
this article.
Stylebender, I'll call him, because I'm going to mispronounce his last name.
What? I'm sorry. It's hard to keep up. And this article is literally saying that this podcast was back on Spotify. The video is titled Disappeared Again. What?
Obsessed about Joe Rogan. During a recent podcast, though, Andrew Schultz revealed that Joe Rogan cried after getting a endorsement from Stylebender, I'll call him, because I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Comedian Andrew Schultz revealed Rogan's emotional reaction to the UFC Championship. Stylebender Israel defending him over the racism allegations. Despite growing backlash, Israel came to Rogan's defense during UFC's 271's pre-fight. According to Andrew Schultz, the 54-year-old comedian had an emotional reaction to the middleweight champion standing up for him. YouTube comedian then revealed, had an emotional reaction to the viral moment. I don't know if you and Rogan spoke, but I was talking to him about it, and he said it made him tear up. He said the UFC championship put his hand over his heart and said, I love that man. Israel then opened up further about why he defended the JRE podcast host. We know what's going on. That's why I say F the noise, he said. Don't focus on what they want you to focus on. Focus on why they're canceling Rogan. Why now? Well, I've often said that there's a lot to why they're canceling him. First and foremost, it's the fact that it's just his sheer size. 11 to 12, 13, 14 million listeners.
That's literally not
is bigger,
why.
I think, pretty much than every TV network, any show on TV. Maybe shows like Walking Dead were bigger, I imagine, maybe, or like Game of Thrones. But like, he's huge. But what I often point to is that there's upcoming midterm election in 2022, and then an upcoming general election, presidential election here in the United States in 2024. I believe strongly that media, the machine, legacy media, is concerned. They're concerned that
Wait, how does this have to do with the election?
He has too much power and he may actually be able to sway elections. I think that he should just have Donald Trump on his show, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. All right, that's enough of this garbage. Sorry, that was a brief detour. Yeah, just curious. How does anybody listen to this? Thanks, Jeremy. I'm now less smart for watching that video. I think we're all less smart for watching that video. Plus, I have no idea what any of it. He pivoted and switched stories around so much that it was completely divorced from the original premise of Joe Rogan's podcast is disappearing, but then he shows an article that it's not because it's back on due to technical difficulties that affected multiple shows. And then he threw on a couple of conspiratorial just asking questions. It is probably the most laziest type of... I mean, I wish I could do that. Jesus Christ. I wish I could do that. All right, folks. Giving a quick update to what's been happening in the January 6th panel. Supreme Court deals final blow to Trump bid to stymie January 6th panel. The Supreme Court on Tuesday turned away the final appeal by the former president in his dispute with congressional investigators pursuing his administration's record as part of the probe into January 6th attack on the Capitol. The court's move represented a finishing blow, at least for now, to Trump's month-long legal bid to block lawmakers from obtaining schedules, call logs, and emails and other White House documents. The committee says it needs to flesh out the circumstances surrounding the deadly pro-Trump Capitol riot. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Why would he want that? Why would he want that blocked? Folks, this is not actions of an innocent person. What? Okay. I don't know what that means, my friend. The defeat also likely lays to rest the concern that Trump might make use of drain-the-clock litigation strategy to stymie the January 6th probe. Trump wielded the approach effectively as president, using a range of delay tactics to drag out lawsuits, hamper investigations, and fend off record requests. True. While there is a non-trivial chance Mr. Trump may again try to block the release of records through new litigation, the resolution of this case arguably should spell out the end of this particular obstacle for the January 6th committee's efforts to receive presidential records, said Bradley Moss, a national security lawyer and partner in the law office of Mark S. Zaid. On the horizon, however, lays a more difficult issue for the committee of whether to subpoena Mr. Trump and his family in an effort to compel actual testimony. Yeah, these people are not gonna... It would constitute telling the truth. Well, either that or lie under oath, which is a no-no. The justice's ruling, which came in a brief unsigned order issued without comment, comes after the Supreme Court denied Trump's emergency request to block the transfer of his White House records from the National Archives to the House Select Committee, a process that began last month. The order leaves intact a lower federal court ruling that found Trump's assertion of executive privilege and other legal theories unpersuasive in light of President Biden's refusal to invoke the privilege, as well as the White House, as well as the House's panel's pressing task. Trump doesn't have a problem lying, no, but it's different when you're lying. It's different when you're lying on like your own platform or to the TV, on a speech. Doesn't matter. There is a problem when you lie under oath, because once that's found, which isn't really hard to do, you have legal repercussions. So I don't think he's the reason why he doesn't want to be deposed, the reason why he hasn't testified, the reason why he doesn't want any of this to go down is because then he would have to either tell the truth or lie, which constitutes a crime. So what is it? I want to say contempt. No, not contempt. Perjury, which constitutes perjury. So yeah, that's... Hey, Dr. Dragon Rider. Morning. Yeah, that's the point. He's screwed either way. Either he continues to play the legal delay tactics, or he's going to have to be deposed, in which case he's going to have to tell the truth or risk perjury, which is why he doesn't want to testify or be deposed or submit whatever evidence that they're looking for. That's why. That's literally it. It's that simple. Trump's lawyers in court papers had also pushed back on the committee's claim that a protracted legal fight threatens to undermine its work. Respondents will not be harmed by the delay, Trump's attorney wrote, referring to the House panel. Despite their insistence that the investigation is urgent, more than a year has passed since January 6th, yet years remain before the next transition of power. The committee and the court have time to make a swift but measured analysis of these important issues and make sure that in the rush to conduct its investigation, the committee does not do irreparable structural damage in the process. Okay. I wasn't aware that Trump is very interested in keeping the institutions intact. I'm out of the loop on all this lately. Gotcha. I don't blame you, to be quite frank. The justices, however, rebuffed Trump's emergency request in a January 19th ruling. Within hours, the House Select Committee began receiving records of development that panel chairman Benny Thompson and vice chairwoman Liz Cheney hailed as a victory for the rule of law and American democracy. Last month's ruling came in an unsigned one-paragraph order. Justice Clarence Thomas, a staunch conservative, was alone in indicating that he would have granted Trump's request, of course. The justices wrote, although the unprecedented dispute between a former president and lawmakers raised a serious and substantial concern, the Washington, D.C.-based Federal Appeals Court had suitably analyzed the issue at hand. Because the Court of Appeals concluded that President Trump's claims would have failed even if he was the incumbent, his status as former president necessarily made no difference to the court's decision. The January 6 attack saw the deaths of 4 people, all Trump supporters, including a woman shot by Capitol Police. Separately, a Capitol officer suffered a fatal stroke a day after sustaining injuries, and 4 other law enforcement officers who responded that day have died by suicide. Nearly 800 rioters faced charges. The court's move on Tuesdays not only marked a denial of Trump's formal request for appeal, but it also sent what likely the final signal that the courts would not intervene at Trump's request, as the judiciary so often did when he was president. A spokesperson for Trump did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump himself has remained mum on the Supreme Court rulings against him, although he has previously not shied away from criticizing decisions he disagrees with or even calling out justices by name. Anyways, the TLDR of this is basically the Supreme Court has said that they're not going to get involved in this, and he's gonna have to produce documents. More and more stuff is gonna come out, that's for sure. I told you folks, the more this goes on, the more information starts to come to light, and transparency is key, that's for sure. Transparency is key. It's so dumb that the FBI always has the public do the work for them on finding the people. Yeah, and the online internet, like, independent sleuths have done more work to identify the people than the FBI has. Too much law enforcement and judges are right-wingers. It will always get blocked by being a doomer, but that's probably true. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't always seem to pan out, so that's like the silver lining. Even though it's, quote, his Supreme Court, and by his, I mean he got to select and cement a supermajority, and even that's not saving him. Turning our attention to our good friend Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn unveils a new Republican Party platform. Spoiler alert, it's the same as the old one, but with some new twist. The new contract with America. Representative Madison Cawthorn unveiled a new Republican Party platform designed after the former House Speaker Newt Gingrich contract with America that he hopes conservatives around the country will pledge to enact should the GOP retake Congress in the midterm elections. Cawthorn, 26, revealed his new contract with America legislation to Fox News Digital along with a video trailer that he'll circulate on social media to rally support for what he calls the America First doctrine for the next generation of conservatives. That's already tipping off some alarm bells there. Whoa.
Disaster. It's not a climate plan.
Alright, so this is the trailer. Okay. Let's check it out.
The Green New Deal is a disaster. It's not a climate plan. It's a socialist manifesto.
Wrong.
A Trojan horse for communism
Wrong.
in America.
Wrong. What? All right, we're 9 seconds in, and this absolute clown has no idea what he's talking about. Zero idea what he's talking about.
I am tired of watching the DC swamp and political insiders capitulate to socialism.
Which? Who? What? Who? Aren't you part of the swamp? You're a representative. You have insider information. They're showing what's happening now, not the future.
This is why I've come up with a bold constitutional plan.
Bold constitutional
it's called
plan.
The New Contract with America. We cannot build down. If we want change, real change, we have to come together and build America up. This is the world I envision. It's time to liberate.
What?
Up. This is the world I envision.
A clean, energy independent revolution. Okay, so you do realize that this would the best way to make energy a country energy independent is by moving to renewables, so that you don't have to rely. One of the there's a huge geopolitical fight going on because of fossil fuels. What? Those old folks are going to eat this up? Yeah, but this is geared towards the new generation of conservatives.
It's time
Values and tradition? What does that mean? Prosperity? What does that mean? These are just buzzwords.
to liberate the American people from
Yeah, of course, the socialist Green New Deal.
government overreach that violates our freedom and robs us of our dignity. You come first. America comes first. The New Contract with America is an America First vision.
See how he built the wall? Saw that? Saw how he built up he built the wall? Look at that.
That takes the power away from government bureaucracy and puts it back into the hands of the people.
Then why are you in government?
It restores our liberties and builds a plan
What?
to preserve our freedom for future generations.
What
I
plan?
choose freedom. America chooses freedom.
What plan? What policies? There's literally nothing of value in this video, except constant buzzwords. Except constant buzzwords and the specter of socialism. Jesus Christ. I think this is a definitive roadmap. Did anybody see any particular policies or plans or anything of the sort in that video? For my generation to reclaim our country. From whom? Cawthorn told Fox Digital in an exclusive interview, "I believe that this is the plan the American people can really coalesce around because it's one that puts people first." How? New Contract for America reads like a conservative wish list, including slashing federal funds. For what? For the military? Do you want to slash funds for the military? Why can't we just promote all forms of energy while transitioning toward green energy so we don't have to suffer now? What are you talking about? The only thing that we should be doing right now is figuring out how, in as much ways as possible, can we decouple ourselves from fossil fuels. Period. Full stop. That's the only thing we should be focusing on when it comes to the climate crisis, at least in the immediate. We should be figuring out in what ways, how fast, what technologies we have available to us and how we can deploy those technologies in as many ways as humanly possible with whatever we can now. That's it. There's no promoting all forms of energy, because all forms of energy are not equal and all forms of energy are not renewable. Yeah, and sourcing support just came in with the logic nuke. With the logic nuke, how does one transition from to something while promoting the opposite? Just drop in that logic nuke in the chat. What do you do for a living? I do things for a living. Replacing the income tax with what? Abolishing the Department of Education. That should be worrying. That should raise a numerous amount of red flags. When you are talking about talking about governmental overreach, imagine wanting to abolish the Department of Education. What does that say? What does that say? It's not, oh, I don't agree, so maybe we should make changes here, here, and here. No. It's abolishing the education department. In other words, education is bad. We don't want you to be educated. In fact, we're going on completely full force with the anti-intellectualism. Just abolish the Department of Education. It's not needed. Listen to us. This is the same people who in the same breath talk about freedom. This is insane. Abolishing the Department of Education means it'll be privatized. That would be even more worse. That would be horrifying. Legal protection for the fertilized eggs? Yeah, we're getting to that one. Don't worry, Thandara. Go on his website if you're looking for policies. I usually don't talk about too many other policies in those quick videos. If you can't explain to me what you stand for, I don't need to listen to you. Been a libertarian talking point for a while. There's nothing the education department actually does, which is obviously false. And stating that life begins at conception, wrong, and therefore affording legal protections to fertilized eggs. Jesus Christ. This is insane. Imagine wanting to afford legal protection to fertilized eggs. This is insane. Oops, sorry about that. This is actually concerning. This is actually concerning. Remember, these are the same people who talk about freedom, who want to make sure that you are so free, who want to make sure that you're so free that they get to decide what you do with your body. Are you talking about the US education system? Yes. I wonder if his political website says the same thing as his Yahoo article. Probably. This is from Fox. This is from Fox News, dude. I'm taking it from the horse's mouth. Clearly they don't, sourcing. Gingrich, the former Republican House Speaker, was an architect of the 1994 legislative agenda called the Contract with America that detailed actions Republicans would take if they won the majority in Congress. Candidates signed the pledge during former President Clinton's first midterm election, and the movement was credited with helping Republicans win back both the House and the Senate. Fox owns Yahoo. Yahoo News is kind of like a hub. So you can get a multitude of different reprinted articles. If you just look at what you're reading, you'll see who it's coming from. In this case, it's right here. It's on the top left. It says Fox News. This is a reprint or copy. I don't know. This is a article that came from Fox News, if that helps. The U.S. is taking away all the world's talents, and now they're returning back to their own countries. I have no idea what that means or what's relevant here. And he's rolling out without explicit support from leadership. It is in a sign of how campaigning has changed. Cawthorn wants to collect endorsements from the public, which he hopes will then compel members of Congress to sign on. Gingrich really had to rely on convincing 218 members of Congress to do this, whereas we found a lot of success in just being able to go directly to the people through social media and other means. Wait, I thought social media was a bane to the conservative movement. Wait, you can't simultaneously make the argument that social media is just going around just slashing conservatives left and right, while also admitting that you've had a lot of success through social media. You can't square that circle for me. Square that circle for me. They care so much about life and kids that they want to make sure there's no paid family leave, no assistance for struggling families. Yeah, anything that assists with actual meaningful things to help the family, they actually don't care. They just call it socialism and get wrecked. Get wrecked, poors. I personally find it easier to convince 30 million Americans rather than 218 members of Congress to back this piece of legislation and then use those 30 million Americans then to leverage their own representative in these primaries. Thanks for the follow, Julie Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Yeah, once you just come out of the womb, you're just a worker bee to them. Yeah, get effed. As soon as you, which is an insane concept. But yeah, the point is, once you're born, get effed because there's no support. There's no support for you. There's no child tax credits. There's no family paid leave. Nothing. No paid sick leave. Nothing. Yeah. Why can't we just socialize necessities while leaving everything else to profit so people don't have to suffer? Well, we can start there. How about that? How about if we envision a world where food, housing, education, and healthcare are just kind of things that are? What if we envision a world where food, housing, education, and healthcare are just a thing? There's no hoops to go through. There's no means testing to go through. It just is. It is funded by the government, who is, again, supposed to be working for us. Why not get something out of it? It's not a religion thing. I start stopping abortions to keep working families working. True. The GOP has a super middle class dream that they want. Don't forget justice, food, healthcare, education, healthcare, and justice. But all of that is justice. All of that comes in together. How do you think a more educated populace makes sense of the world, or views the world, or acts politically? A more educated populace makes different decisions. Speaking of the justice system, but all of that comes downstream. I think it's a bad idea to be going, I think it's fine, maybe good to have the public sector compete with the private sector. Food, housing, and healthcare has fixed prices. Education is free. Yeah, I mean, like, but these things should just be, right? These things should just be. In a highly produced video made by his campaign team, Cawthorn makes his pledge as the opposite of the Green New Deal. The quote, progressive climate and jobs plan authored by AOC. Oh yeah, she's the sole creator of the Green New Deal. Yeah, it should just be. These things should just be. Just like how it is never an issue. It is never a problem when it comes to dumping hundreds of billions of dollars for the military. The military just is. They never have a problem with that. They never have a problem with that. Why not reorganize some of those priorities to actually provide for people? If the private sector can't beat with the supposedly useless public sector, then it should not exist. That's an interesting thought. Authored by New York Representative, AOC was previously the youngest member in Congress when she was sworn in at 29. I think the Green New Deal is less of a climate plan and much more of a communist manifesto. Wrong. He's never read this in his life. Cawthorn told Vox Digital, so this is really a retort to that. So the entire movement is a retort to the Green New Deal. Okay. The new contract with America outlines 10 overreaching pillars for the GOP government spending, but it depends on what they mean by government spending. Economy, government reform, healthcare, education, culture and family unit, energy and environment, immigration, technical innovation, and defense and veterans. The legislation then offers 52 major policy changes to address those pillars. Cawthorn said he'll follow up with more specific and separate legislation that will go into more detail, as the major changes slashing government spending by a third by 2031, enacting a balanced budget amendment, and abolishing the income tax and finding a replacement flat tax or consumption tax by 2026. Jesus Christ. Talk about, like, going the backwards way of doing things. Tax megachurches, yep. True. Tax to megachurches. The contract also calls for abolishing the Department of Education, making English the official language of the United States. Jesus Christ. Holy yikes, Batman. Banning federal funding for critical race theory teachings, enacting school choice on the federal level so that federal dollars follow students to the school of choice, including private religious schools, which is, of course, what they want. Remember, folks, the radical left is trying to indoctrinate you. Not us. Not us, who wants to make sure that federal dollars go to private religious schools who are totally not indoctrination centers. I'm not interested in making profit for food, housing, education, and healthcare. I'm not interested in businesses making profit out of that. Cawthorn's contract, healthcare and education should be zero cost and universal. Housing should be means tested, but much less than it is today. Food should be nutrition focused and should be means tested after a certain period of time. I feel like religion should be kept as far as possible from education. True. Cawthorn's contract calls for legislation to impose term limits on members of Congress and on federal career employees, paying for a study on decades of failed governance at urban centers. while banning federal funding for cities that defund the police. So how do you square the circle of I don't like government overreach, but also the federal government is going to take control of funding for local governments? Other provisions, including abolishing the 1934 National Firearm Act that taxes guns, finishing former President Trump's border with the wall. I thought it was a good wall. I thought it was 94% effective. Schrodinger's wall keeps popping up. Breaking up big tech monopolies and demanding that China compensates the US for the COVID pandemic. Jesus. So like reparations? Huh. Interesting. Cawthorn said this agenda should become a metric by which to measure the GOP candidates. You look at every primary in the country right now, and everyone's running on the idea of America first. Not really. That's not true. But few people can actually give that a definition. Yeah, that's cringe. No, thank you. But so few people can actually give a definition. Also, I want to give an actual definition of a way that my generation, if we enact these policies, can reclaim our country. From whom? From whom? This is just ridiculous. This is delusional. This is delusional. My brother wrote me into going to church, and it was fine until an old guy tried to give me shit for wearing a hat. Like, I thought only God can judge. You'll find that there's nothing more hateful than Christian love. Oh, man. Yeah, because we've had quite a problem. Sometimes they don't send us our best, Dr. Dragon Rider, and it's forced us to take preliminary measures. Sometimes they just don't send us our best. So they don't send their best. I'm trying to find where the actual platform is for this ridiculousness, and I'm unable to find it. Is it like literally on his website? Oh, wait, I think we got it. Okay, don't care. Whereas socialist policies have failed catastrophically. What? Can you explain which socialist policies were enacted? My friend grew up in a super religious family, went to church every Sunday, and them being so strict made her do everything the opposite. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Are you really going to ruin a good day because of a hat? I hope your kids hurry up and put you in a... Oh, well, no. I mean, Jesus Christ. Maybe people shouldn't be pushing religious stuff on people. Maybe we should do that. Whereas no economic system has lifted more people out of poverty than the free enterprise system. Cringe. Whereas the United States healthcare system is operating within an antiquated regulatory framework created in 1942 that is incompatible with 21st century economy. You're right, it should be free. Whereas where socialized government-run healthcare systems like those in the United Kingdom would be cruelly inefficient and lead to rationing. What? Source? Oof, yikes. Whereas reckless, irresponsible, and ineffective Green New Deal suggest a permanent lockdown of the American economy and not unlike the economic duress of the trend of COVID-19 grant communist China a competitive advantage and inflict injustice on American communities through higher energy prices, all while doing nothing to reduce global temperatures. What? And no one's suggesting a permanent lockdown. Yeah, Jesus was very well known for harassing people about their appearance, true. What does this have to do with communist China? This is unbelievably bad faith. Whereas concerns about the climate to advance unrelated socialist goals? What? Like government-run healthcare? Wait, does he think that, like, I don't know, Sweden, Norway are socialist countries? Does he think that the United Kingdom is a socialist country? This is why nobody should be taking this guy seriously. Like government-run healthcare, universal basic income, that's also not socialist. What? Furthermore, I don't believe that the Green New Deal actually talks about universal healthcare, in my opinion. Not that I saw. I'll have to read the little pamphlet again. But I don't believe that. I don't believe it talks about that. Furthermore, universal healthcare, government-run healthcare, is not socialism. That's literally not what it is. Neither is a universal basic income. Universal basic income is collecting Go, is getting your $200 after passing Go to keep the capitalist machine going. UBI would never work. I think under a certain parameter, it could, but I'm not interested in that. Yeah, socialism is when the government does stuff, and the more it does, the more socialist it is. And when it does a lot of things, then it's communism. Many people nowadays try to wear things that their religious leaders or figures wear instead of implementing the things that those religious figures said about how to live a beautiful life. Those people wouldn't even resort to So these people would yeah, it seems to me like religious extremism, like organized religion such as like Christianity is like is just authoritarian and always leads to this kind of thinking anyways. You have a persecution, the king, everything is somehow infringing on their rights. Yeah. UBI equals raise rent by X, where X is the UBI amount, maybe. UBI wouldn't work because businesses could just raise prices and take everyone's money. Maybe. It just depends. There is parameters where it could work. I'm just not sold on it. Whereas using concerns about climate to advance unrelated, oh yeah, we already went there. A universal basic income that is an irresponsible tactic that delays reforms that can improve environmental stewardship, which I'm sure he's going to get into, especially how he's going to fix it, of course. Whereas all of the above energy policy utilizes renewables, nuclear energy, and fossil fuels is superior than an everything but policy that naively and dangerously undermines American energy independence. The problem being is that argument doesn't work because in order for us to transition, we don't need to push fossil fuels. We need to figure out how we move away from them and begin that process decades ago. And the energy independence argument doesn't work either because if you have a robust renewable system, that is energy independence. Whereas hydraulic fracking, a private sector innovation, which has caused untold amounts of damage, when it comes to health, people's health, water supplies, not to mention contributing to global warming, not to mention the ecological damage. Hydraulic fracking is a private sector innovation, has done more to reduce greenhouse gas emissions than other innovation or government regulation in the past decades. Wrong, actually. The exact opposite. Whereas free economies are clean economies, not necessarily. That's also misleading. Whereas central planning traps people in poverty and slows innovation. What innovation are we experiencing right now? What? I'm not sold on the whole idea of like total and complete central planning, but this ain't it, Chief. Whereas a carbon tax is a coercive and counterproductive government mechanism that would delay the development and deployment of green energy technology. Look, if they're not interested in doing it years ago, they're not interested now. Okay? The only thing that would motivate this would be a profit motive. It's not because of government overburdens. Whereas the Democrats' climate alarmism is intellectually dishonest based on their unwillingness to take immediate action. The only part about this that is true is that the Democratic Party has absolutely no willingness to even begin to put the most minimum effort forward necessary. That's the only part of this that's actually true. Whereas the First Amendment guarantees the free speech and free expression of thought, blah, 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 blah. That's rich. More fear-mongering about China is set to overtake the US as a global leader in key categories. What key categories? If the United States fails to advance a bold freedom agenda, what does that mean? Where China is actively working to build a strategic alliance with totalitarian anti-democratic states like Iran, Russia, and North Korea, whereas the Democrats' failed border policy is a threat. What? What? Failed border policy is a threat to the nation's security and rule of law. Therefore, be it resolved that is the sense that It is the sense of the House of Representatives that it is the duty of the federal government to create a commission modeled after the base closure and realignment commission to reduce government spending by 1/3, which is consistent with the finding of President Reagan. Oh, lordy. Grace Commission report that declared 1/3 to spend is wasteful. Yeah, let's take it off the military budget. Yeah, let's do that. Enact a balanced budget amendment, turn around the mismanagement of Social Security because Americans want to help. Turn around the mismanagement of Social Security because Americans want to help the needy by incentivizing people to work and get off entitlement programs. Motherfucker, if you've worked your entire life, your working life, these aren't entitlements. I know that's what they're called, but these aren't entitlements. This is stuff you worked for. Just to be clear, Social Security is for people who have worked and are now extracting those benefits that they worked for. Yeah. They try to make this into a negative, but the reality is, now that I think about it, you know what? Yeah. Yeah, I am entitled to that shit. Yeah, I have worked for X amount of decades or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. I paid into this shit. So, yeah, actually, I am entitled to that. Entitlement has a different English definition. Yeah, they try to make it as if it's like a negative. They try to paint a negative over it. A negative vision in people's heads. You're right, things do need to change. We do what we can within the tools that we have, within the time we have. Abolish the income tax and direct the Ways and Means Committee to develop a replacement based on consumption tax or flat tax by 2026. Yeah, flat tax is not, that's no. Expand opportunity zones, I don't know what that means. Demand instant COVID compensation from communist China based on an economic analysis of lost public and private sector revenue. And how do you do that? Exactly. How do you ask a foreign government for reparations, which is funny. How do you go about that? How? Promote and celebrate American manufacturing agriculture industry by incentivizing domestic production. Abolish the Department of Education, which is incredibly worrisome. Establish English language as the official language of the United States. Fuck you. Downsize and consolidate non-essential and wasteful functions of the Department of Agriculture, Commerce, Energy, Health and Human Services, Housing. Jesus Christ. Labor, Transportation, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Yikes. Create a study to review all spending with federal agencies in order to cut outrageous waste. That would be the military. And reallocation portion of those fundings to localized nonprofits dedicated to fighting an opioid epidemic, promoting entrepreneurship within the veteran community, and promoting patriotic civil engagement. I don't know what that means. Domestic production is a good idea. I think so. In certain circumstances, I think that's good. I want people to get out there, though. Join your organizations, friend. Go to your local city council meetings. Join them. And who cares what their political system is? Iraq should demand compensation, oligarchical, capitalist, imperialist America. Yeah, like by that logic, then everybody's going to be asking for reparations based on whatever perceived. I mean, like, okay, so then we should be on our way to dump a whole bunch of money for all the stuff that we did too. Okay. Recognize the past abuse of directors of three-letter agencies that are committed in order to prevent future abuse of power. Sure, but that's different. That doesn't have to be shoehorned in all this nonsense. Impose term limits on members of Congress, as such as 6 terms for members, and House of Representatives, 2 terms for senators to incentivize long-term and strategic policy making. Impose term limits on federal career employees. Ensure all congressional bills move through proper order in the respective committees. All that amendments are germane and there's only one subject matter per one bill. Protect employer-sponsored insurance from single-payer, government-run healthcare schemes. Oh my god. Make sure that your employer can chain you down to your employment by dangling healthcare, a thing that, and this is true, people need. Dangle that over their heads and say, you know what, you gotta be, if you want healthcare, you gotta stay here and do what we want. True. Protect patients with pre-existing conditions, which would be solved by universal healthcare. Yeah, so make yourself a constant pain, Vision. Make yourself a constant pain in every single virtual meeting, or when they become real, like in person, make yourself such a thorn and keep showing up. Like that's one way of doing things. Moreover, get a couple of people to show up and be extra thorns. All of this could be solved by universal healthcare system. End America's 80-year discrimination against self-employed workers by equalizing the tax treatment of healthcare purchased by such individuals and employer-provided healthcare by providing generous subsidies, offset by cuts to the government waste to states, allowing individuals to shop for their own health insurance and choose their own doctors. All of this is not needed. Just make universal healthcare. That's it. Just do a single-payer system. That's it. Preserve healthcare freedom and expand health savings accounts and monopolies in the healthcare system among it. Yeah. You mean the for-profit system tends to gyrate to tends to gravitate towards monopolies? No way. It's an exponential stretching phase. Then the band will break in 30 more years of exclusivity for the have-nots, such as much as everyone complains, they're too afraid to give up the comforts. So they'll put up with it for just a bit while longer. We'll be the only developed nation without universal healthcare. I believe that's true. I want to organize in my local community so that there's a decent-sized group of us. Don't really know too many people, just moved. Hey, little by little, my friend, go out there. Talk to one person. Talk to just one person, and then see if you can talk to another. Follow student to whichever. Prevent taxpayers from funding anti-American critical race theory. Okay. Create a study and analysis of documented decades of failed progressive governance in our nation's urban centers. What does that mean? Prevent federal funding for cities that have defunded their police or law enforcement. Recognize that life begins at conception. Enact. What does this have to do with federal funding? This is insane. Recognize that life begins at conception. Fuck you. Enact a parental bill of rights. So you're going to give maternity leave, parental leave. You're going to support working families by giving them tax breaks and tax refunds. You're going to enable the child tax reform. All of this is going to be put, right? Make political affiliation protected from workplace discrimination. I have not seen that be a thing. So I don't know what he's doing. I think he's solving a problem that doesn't exist. Protect individual Americans from violence by recognizing that every American who can legally own a firearm has the ability to carry and conceal firearms in every state without a permit. Prevent future weapons banned by abolishing the outdated National Firearms Act. Incentivize the use of modular nuclear reactors through expedited permitting. What? No. 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 The whole problem of nuclear reactors is that if they're not properly done, if they don't have proper regulations and scrutiny, a whole lot of stuff can go wrong, as we've seen throughout history. So no, we don't need to expedite permitting, cut corners on something so serious as nuclear energy. That is wild. No, it's the opposite. This is why, Jesus Christ. Incorporate and thus underutilize hydropower into our energy grid, depending on how hydropower can be good. It just depends, because if you're just destroying the natural ecology and killing the natural, fish and all that, just, invest in basic research and development to accelerate the development and deployment of breakthrough technologies and all above, and all of the energy strategy except for fossil fuels. Immediately resume. Wait, you can't claim to be attempting to solve the climate crisis and then you want to expand and keep producing oil. That's the exact opposite. And of course, immediate withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, because of course, you need to protect the environment by attempting to give the finger to the closest thing we've had to international cooperation. Nice. Demand that China, the world's worst polluter, dismantle concentration camps, grant free speech rights. What? Wait, how does it have to do with pollution? Oh, to religious and political minorities and offer formal apology for the Tiananmen Square massacre. How does this have to do with climate? Impose tariffs on Chinese goods that are produced under conditions that violate American clean air standards. Reform outdated and cumbersome National Environmental Policy Act. Nah, thank you. Protect the United States' access to critical minerals to give the United States a global competitive edge. I don't know what that means. Usually that means that they're going to create more devastation to the ecology. No, thank you. And the Democrats' irresponsible border policies, which, can anybody tell me the meaningful difference between the former administrations and the current administrations, policies when it comes to immigration? Have we had a massive overhaul of immigration, or has it been more or less the same? And resort to reassert President Reagan's vision of a shining city on a hill that includes both walls and doors. Okay. Jesus Christ. For those who want to enter a country legally. Okay. Prohibit federal funding to sanctuary cities. Focus on fighting human trafficking. Formally recognize independence and sovereignty of Taiwan. I thought this whole idea was pitched as a way to counter the radical Green New Deal. Formally recognize the independence and sovereignty of Taiwan. I think we already did that, didn't we? Okay. Whatever. Use a portion of savings generated from the BRAC-style government downsize commission to upgrade our nation's transportation and technological infrastructure by repairing structurally deficient bridges, create a technologically sound 21st century highway system, and delivering broadband access to rural areas and underdeserved communities. Delivering broadband, expanding public transportation, making as much public transportation not only available, but as renewable, and making it so that you rethink how you build cities would actually be a good idea. Okay? How you do city planning and, public transportation, incentivize that, and make public transportation as renewable as possible in whatever ways is possible. Retrofitting buildings to be as renewable as possible. Sure. Break up big tech monopolies from Reform Section 230. Yes, but good luck. Deregulate cryptocurrency and incentivize blockchain innovation. Wait, I don't think crypto is really that much regulated, is it? Continue President Trump's rebuilding America's military. No. You can't simultaneously say that you are so in favor of cutting government spending, but also I need to increase government. How do you think that's going to happen? Can you please elaborate the 21st century threats? Can you please elaborate what 21st century threats? Immediately return war-making powers to Congress. Sure. Position our military to dominate air, land, sea, and space by upgrading existing assets. Well, newsflash, buddy. We already do. I don't understand. Hypersonic weapons. Yeah, more money for more war. No, thank you. Prioritize getting our veterans back to work. What? And easing the transition from military life to civilian life through fellowship programs and by creating economic opportunities. Okay, so a lot of vague posting. A lot of fear-mongering and buzzwords. I could count the things that I agree with on basically one hand. But it's all couched in this, like, insane platform. This is wild. This is wild. None of this has any specific policies like we were told. Boo. So here's a cool, interesting survey. 75% of people want single-use plastics banned. Nice. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I gotta do some research on this. You know, for educational purposes, of course. Three in 4 people worldwide want single-use plastics to be banned as soon as possible, according to a poll released on Tuesday as United Nations members prepare to begin talks on global treaty to rein in soaring plastic pollution. Also, we've got massive amounts of influence when it comes to the fossil fuel industry to prevent this from even happening. Never mind the overwhelming majority of people want this. The fossil fuel industry has decided that their profits are just worth more. The percentage of people calling for bans is up from 71% since 2019, while those who said they favored products with less plastic packaging rose to 82% from 75%, according to the Ipsos poll of more than 20,000 people across 28 countries. Activists say the results send a clear message to governments meeting in Nairobi this month to press ahead with the ambitious treaty to tackle plastic waste, a deal being touted as the most important environmental pact since the Paris Agreement. Unfortunately, we actually talked about this. Unfortunately, this is all very beautiful, very nice, very cool, except it has 0 teeth to it at all. Wait, how come I'm not seeing any of this? I'm sorry, Memo. What? I literally am not seeing any of these comments. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go through this. Speaking of conception, did you see the Florida mailing by Bilirakis? The Florida legislature is considering a legislation that would ban abortions after the 15th week. Yes, Mammoth Waffle. We went over this. Remember, freest state in the country. Except we tell you how to run your body. There should be 0 laws regulating a woman's bodily autonomy. True, it's worse Biden deports some more of Haiti's people per month than Trump ever did. Yeah, like I said, is there like any significant difference? Not really. It's been just as bad, if not in some cases worse. I've read that the courts in Texas have slow-rolled or stopped any immigration changes. Yeah, that's also a thing. Hey, Memo. A lot of the same immigrants are coming in repeatedly and being sent back. Socialism for military and vets. True. Austerity for the bootstraps and everybody. I really wish I knew what this is, but, yeah. Anyways, let's just not do that. Looks like a Gordon Ramsay. Is that Alex Jones's face? I don't know. I love my veteran socialism. It lets me hang out on Twitch all day instead of working. True. Yeah, austerity and bootstraps for everybody. Alright. Yeah, for some reason it's not showing up on my end over here, so I have to actually go back into my own stream to look at all the, comments, so I apologize, folks. Let me close this here and refresh chat so I can see you guys, okay? Biden is the weakest president in US history. I don't know what that means. Do you mean he's the weakest in addressing any meaningful problems? Sure. Nobody voted for Biden, they only voted against Trump. That's one way of seeing it. I've said multiple times that, like, let's be clear. Biden wasn't like the all-favored choice. It's just that, what's the alternative? We attempted to stave off a whole lot of malarkey. And unfortunately, as this administration has progressed, we are only getting malarkey. Activists said the results sent a clear message to governments meeting at Nairobi. Yes, people were led to make their views clear. The WWF International Director General, the onus and opportunity is now on governments to adopt a global plastic treaty so we can eliminate plastic pollution. Yeah. And this is the article that we were talking about earlier. Reuters revealed last week that big oil and chemical industry groups were devising strategies to persuade conference participants to reject any deal that would limit production of plastic, which is made from oil and gas, a key source of their revenue. Yeah. Profit. That's what it is. And surely enough, the influence that the fossil fuel industry has is massive. At this point, if the fossil fuel industry, if the oil and chemical companies are incapable of making this happen, then they should basically not exist. I have to only one because they did get paid to work for the DoD. If that is the only choice in life, then maybe we should examine why that is. And yeah, true. It's a good point. If the fossil fuel industry is incapable of providing us a palpable path forward, if these petrochemical companies continue to destroy the environment and human health, and they have no palpable plan to move forward, then F them. F them. They should be either nationalized or kicked out of the ability to do business. Either they can provide us a palpable plan forward, or that's it. Unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of time to begin to, go back and forth on this. The private sector has failed. Capitalism has failed. The innovation that we were promised has failed. It's not there. It's time we figure out another way while we still have time. In a stunning turn of events, a small, pleasant surprise, Dakota Access Pipeline suffers U.S. Supreme Court setback. The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday rejected a bid led by the Dakota Access Pipeline operator Energy Transfer to LP to avoid additional environmental reviews of a section that runs under artificial lake that is opposed by nearby Native American tribes, leaving the pipeline vulnerable to being shut down. Good. Justice left in place the lower court's decision that ordered the federal government to undertake more intensive environmental studies of the pipeline's route underneath Lake Oahe, which straddles the border of North Dakota and South Dakota. The pipeline, known as DAPL, hadn't opened since 2017, will continue to operate as the reviews carried out. We call on the administration to close the pipeline until full safety and environmental review is complete. DAPL should never have been authorized in the first place, and this administration is failing to address the persistent illegality of this pipeline, said Jan Hasselman, the lawyer for the Environmental Group of Justice who represents the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. The Dakota Access Pipeline has been the subject of a lengthy court battle between tribes seeking its disclosure and Dallas-based Energy Transfer. Yeah, like, if you're so hell-bent on stopping any environmental review, why is that? Why is that? Whether the project should be shut down is not an issue in the Energy Transfer Supreme Court appeal, but Energy Transfer said in court papers that pipeline remains vulnerable to a shutdown with the new environmental review pending. Damn, that's a you problem. The company did not immediately reply to a request for comment. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe, along with the Yankton Sioux tribe and Oglala Sioux tribe and Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, have opposed the biggest pipeline out of the back-end shale basin. The pipeline runs about 1,170 miles from North Dakota to Illinois. The disputed section on the federal property under Lake Oahe, an artificial reservoir on the Missouri River, is 1.7 miles or 2.7 kilometers long. The tribe draws water from the lake for various purposes, including drinking, and also considers the waters of Missouri River to be sacred. Their lawyers have said the tribes are worried about potential oil spills, which, lo and behold, have happened multiple times during the Dakota Access Pipeline. Comments on DAPL EIS is open up soon. Environmental impact study. They got the project through without ever creating an EIS, which is technically hideously illegal. Yeah, they're not interested. The only thing that they care about is profit, and if that requires shoehorning their destructive product, then so be it. After all, what's the worst that can happen? They get slapped with some fines, maybe a lawsuit in the future, but that's in the future. I'll never forget when Trump blew up indigenous burial grounds for the border wall and said replaceable. Yeah, it's gross. The tribes lobbied hard to prevent the easement under the lake from being approved and initially appeared to have succeeded when in 2016 the administration of the former Democratic President Barack Obama said it would review the original action to allow construction, but after the Republican Donald Trump became president in 2017, the government endorsed the original decision to grant an easement. Democratic President Joe Biden's administration urged the Supreme Court not to hear the appeal, saying the pipeline operator concerns about a shutdown were overstated. What? Washington-based U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg in 2020 found that the government had violated a law called the National Environmental Policy Act and threw out the approval. Boask ordered a more detailed environmental impact statement, which was the decision of the pipeline operator which was the decision the pipeline operator was challenging. Boasberg subsequently ruled that the pipeline be shut down, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for District of Columbia Circuit blocked that decision while allowing the additional environmental reviews. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the federal agency overseeing the permit approval process, said it expects to complete the review later this year. Anyone can comment on the DAPL EIS when the comments show up. Something to pay attention to. I think somebody said, let's do something. Well, here's an opportunity. Vision, there's an opportunity. So slightly, it is a lowercase w, but a W nonetheless. I spent 2 months at Standing Rock Node DAPL camp. Wow. That is awesome. This one we're just going to go really quickly, kind of to piggyback off what we were talking about yesterday. We were talking about the benefits of hempcrete, new innovations when it comes to making construction more sustainable. Here, we have hemp being used by indigenous folks to actually repair and clean the soil out of PFAS, or I guess the colloquial term microplastics, out of the soil. Just another reason why hemp is just so good. So many benefits to this plant. I just wanted to touch up on that. Because of their ability to bind proteins, PFAS tends to bioaccumulate, building up in soil, water, even human bodies under typical environmental conditions. They can persist for hundreds, even thousands of years. But there's hope. At Loring in 2020, researchers discovered that the Mimax hemp plants were successful at sucking out PFAS of the contaminated soil. This practice is known as phytoremediation, could guide farmers across the country who have had to shut down after discovering their soil is tainted with the ubiquitous class of chemicals, which of course, the various ways ends up in our bodies. Through the roots, Astro, in the soil. How did you see the pig feed from food waste that just grinds packaging? What? No, but that sounds very bad. That sounds... Ooh. Yes, through the roots. This is not like a new concept. They have used plants like hemp to cure the soil out of lead and other contaminants in the past. This is definitely a promising result. In addition to PFAS, plants have been used to leach lead from abandoned mines and pesticides from retired orchards. While people have long used plants to help clean up the soil and water, the term was coined in 1994 by Rutgers University biologist Elia Raskin. Hemp is a good candidate for phytoremediation because it grows fast across most of the U.S. Across much of the U.S., its roots are deep and profuse, the better to uptake pollutants from the soil. Yeah, so it comes from the soil. No, microplastics are so small. You don't waste packaging because you can just oh my god. As someone who has studied ecological restoration, microremediation, I love it. Nice. Can I get this link? Yeah, sure. This is a, oops, sorry. That in Oregon, growing hemp has replaced the majority of organic food farms as farmers seek to make more money and then were forced to purchase imported food with a huge carbon footprint. Yikes.
Together.
A shocking source of pig feed that a man has exposed.
In there. Then I'll show you the rest of the process.
And his main clip isn't even the most plastic.
That right there is cooked at like 1,000 degrees. It's cooked.
And yeah,
Everything's grounded into this. Just put it in here. Stuff.
music's clip.
They fired me today for spreading the truth. Should I post everything?
Stuff like this. Just put it in here. Plastic and all.
Oh
Don't
my
even
God.
matter. Plastic, cardboard boxes, pallets, everything's grounded into this. Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, chat. Hold on.
Plastic and all.
Right there. Would a political science building be a good place to go as far as trying to get people together? Maybe. I mean, anywhere you feel comfortable that maybe one or two people can be amicable to talk to you, that's all it takes. It's better to know. Yeah. Yeah, this is what they're feeding the poor pigs. This is what they're feeding the poor porkers. Look at that. Let me blow that up for you. See that? That's a plastic bag. Pallets, wood, everything. Jesus Christ. And of course, they fired this person. They fired this person for trying to expose them. The food waste from stores, there's a company that takes it and turns it into pig feed. They claim that they remove the plastic wrapping, but video proves otherwise. Yeah, everything. They just literally feed everything into that machine. explaining the problem is I have severe social anxiety. That's okay. What you can do is maybe participate in petitions and get people, in ways that you can together and sign petitions, or maybe, like Siscat pointed out, there's going to be a public opening in which anyone can participate for this pipeline. You can put your comments there. You can encourage others through your social media if you want, digitally, to make their voices heard too. I mean, there's other things that you can do if you can. The point is, you do what you can within the tools that you have, within the time that you have. Things are robust, but probably builds up in them, and then in us who eat them, which is Jesus Christ. Yikes. That's just gross. That's just gross. This is the YouTube video that Memo just posted in case you guys want to really see the full thing. And that's why, my friends, you do organic. Yeah, well, I want to avoid this whole thing altogether. Jesus. That's the link up there if you guys want to check out the full video. Yikes. That is gross. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So this is cool. Very cool. A small, just W. And another way that we can address the environmental degradation using hemp. Which is why I wanted to point this out. Really quickly, wildfires will increase and worsen. UN reports, of course. This is not... this shouldn't surprise anybody. It turns out that as the planet warms and conditions continue to be worse, wildfires will be more prominent, and the wildfires that do occur will be more severe. That is basically the TLDR. Western US, Northern Siberia, Central India, and Eastern Australia already see more blazes, and the likelihood of catastrophic wildfires globally would increase more than 50% by the turn of the century. Yeah. Areas once considered safe for major wildfires won't be immune, including the Arctic, which the report said was very likely to experience a significant increase in burning. Yeah, the Arctic, folks. Tropical forests in Indonesia and southern Amazon of South America are also likely to see increased wildfires, which is not good. Uncontrollable and devastating wildfires are becoming the expected part of the seasonal calendars in many parts of the world. Yep. But UN researchers in many nations continue to spend too much time and money fighting the fires and not enough trying to prevent them. True. True. Wind was blowing away from my house, or I'd be gone too. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Welcome to the new norm, should things continue as business as usual. Tesla and the EPA reach a settlement after automakers' Clean Air Act violation. So a company can violate for multiple years through October of 2016 and September of 2019, could violate this multiple years, and the worst thing that happens to them is, drum roll please, they pay a penalty of $275,000, which is peanuts. Which is peanuts. Yeah. Like I said, these companies are not interested in solving anything related to the environment. They are here to destroy it for the sake of profit if they have to. It doesn't matter to them. I still have PTSD from watching my neighborhood and my friends' homes burn up. Jesus Christ. Yikes. it is wild to me that a multi-billion dollar company can get away with gross violations of regulations intended or put in place to protect our air and water. In this case, the Clean Air Act. And the only thing that happens to them is they get a tiny slap on the wrist. That's it. According to an announcement from the EPA, Tesla will pay a penalty of $275,000, which is immaterial to a business that reported $2.3 billion in net income to during the fourth quarter of 2021. The EPA explained that Tesla violated regulations known as the National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants for surface coating of automobiles through October of 2016 through September of 2019 in Fremont. Yeah. California fire season now declared 12 months per year. Yeah, welcome to the new normal. They need to compensate the public. Yeah, this needs to stop. Like, I mean, if I could just pay peanuts, then I can continue to do whatever I want. It's just the price of doing business. Like, this idea that these billionaires are here to save us or innovate us out of climate change is just, it's just not true. This is horrible. I recommend implementing indigenous-based fire ecology and fuel reduction for advancing prescribed fire for a couple of decades. That is really cool, actually. That is so cool, says Kat. Anyway, screw Tesla. Must be nice to be multi-billion dollar company, flagrantly violate rules, and just pay peanuts to have the government get off your back. Let's take a look at the garbage that conservative media puts out when it comes to climate change. Larry Kudlow, Biden jihad against fossil fuels is financing Putin's military adventures, which I believe this guy's probably inebriated during this time. Acknowledging that Russia carved out a big chunk of Ukraine, Biden afternoon announced a very weak low level of sanctions. So these were not the exactly swift and severe consequences that have been bragging about for many weeks. What do you want, a war? The Russian stock market rose, so Biden did follow Germany in not certifying the Nord Stream team, but that's just a temporary paper contract issue. It's not a long-term or permanent shutdown. Basically hit a couple of banks tied to the Donbas region. So what does this have to do with Biden's jihad against fossil fuels? Hasn't Biden sped permits, and hasn't he approved more permits for drilling? Pretty sure he has. So, Mr. Biden, you need to be honest about the damage you're doing to the American industry. In fact, you've done everything you can to drive up prices, source. And you know that because you're dancing to the radical green tune. What radical green tune? Your jihad against fossil fuels has held down production in the face of rising demand, and that has been a key factor in driving up world oil prices towards $100 a barrel. Wrong. That's Russia's fault. In effect, Biden's jihad against fossil fuels is financing Vladimir Putin's military ventures, because if we're producing 13 million BBD as we did pre-pandemic, except for, I don't know what he's trying to talk, I don't know what this means, oil prices would be substantially lower and Putin would be significantly poorer. How do you know that this is directly going to Russia? Okay? The threat of conflict is what's driving this. What radical green tune? What jihad against fossil fuels? The framing of this article gives it, yeah, it has nothing to do with this. This is all buzzwords to get people angry. Biden's energy policies have been utterly self-destructive to America. Yeah, I agree. Encouraging fossil fuel developments are incredibly self-destructive to America. I agree. The continuation of harboring this industry, the continuation of subsidies for this industry, for the fossil fuel industry, is utterly self-destructive. Yes, I agree. So then he goes off into non sequiturs that have nothing to do with financing Putin's military. The Bidens, what? Okay, are also at war with several judges who disagree with the idea of the social cost of carbon, which is true. There are numerous amounts of negative externalities related to the fossil fuel industry. Yes, which is a phony metric drummed up by the extreme greenies. Extreme greenies? Oh my god. Their idea is that the pipeline analysis should include carbon emissions from the upstream production, downstream production, even though there's no reliable way of measuring either. I'm gonna press X to doubt on that, and furthermore, yes, it should be included. That is part of the emissions. Yes. Yes. Perfect timing for that ad, true. Of course, we can all recall in the first hour of his presidency, Biden vetoed the Keystone XL pipeline, which later he banned drilling in Alaska, raised drilling fees on public land, and so on. I'm pretty sure that some of this is still going on. If Mr. Biden were a smart president, he would really really wanted to go after Putin. He would simply tell the American fossil fuel companies to turn the spigots back on, and he would lift all the tax and regulatory barriers that he has erected. No, wrong, opposite. I don't understand how this would actually affect Putin in any way, shape, or form. And furthermore, he's acting as if the fossil fuel companies aren't pumping out oil as we speak, as if they all stopped. Yeah. This is all in the service of the fossil fuel industry. This is all to get people angry about any type of acknowledgement of the climate crisis, and to get people angry at any attempt of regulation to attempt to even kind of, maybe, at some point, hopefully, even acknowledge that the issue exists. This is designed to drum up fear, to drum up anger, and then turn that against any hope of progress for the service of the fossil fuel industry. That's what this is. Here we have another one. The green agenda is too expensive. We need a better way to fight climate change. Okay. By the way, I looked into this guy, and he is definitely questionable. He is so questionable when it comes to the climate crisis. He puts himself forth as some type of like legitimate intellectual, but in the reality, this is why media literacy is so important. This guy's goal is to perpetuate, downplay the climate crisis. That's his goal. Mick Rice, thank you for the follow. Energy costs are climbing out of control. A gallon of gas nearly cost more dollars than a year ago. Americans are experiencing sticker shock this winter. Okay, so that sounds like a fossil fuel problem. Though part of this is due to the world restarting after the pandemic, climate policies are increasingly driving prices up. No, this is a fossil fuel problem. Maybe we should get rid of it. Fossil fuels still deliver the vast majority of energy. The European Union now puts climate at the top of its political agenda. It should, but I don't trust that they have been doing any meaningful action towards it. Yet more than the 80% of primary needs are met by fossil fuels, which should change. Despite the endless environmental talk, solar and wind contribute only 3% of Europe's total energy. I'd have to fact check that, but it should be increasing. Making a transition from fossil fuel to green energy is costly, so we shouldn't do it, guys. It just costs too much. New York Post is questionable in general. True, but this is the conservative thought. Right here. Solar and wind can only deliver electricity, which accounts for less than a fifth of total energy consumption. I don't know if you're counting on the downstream effects of the electrical grid, but Moreover, as Europe is leaning on unreliable sources like wind leaves household vulnerable. Wind speeds are usually low for most of 2021, causing much of Europe. Wait. Hold on. You just said that this only contributes to 3% of Europe's total energy. What? Okay. When the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, prices rise quickly and we have revert to fossil fuels for backup. Or we could have robust fail-safes in place to make sure that battery systems are operable, sustainable, and capable of handling this. Batteries are inadequate and expensive, which I don't buy because our technology for batteries have progressed way better, easily contributing solar electricity costs and failing to provide much power. I don't trust that. In fact, solar electricity costs way less than any fossil fuel, period. It is actually the cheapest one. In 2021, Europe had battery capacity to back up less than 1.5 minutes of its average electricity usage by 2030, with 10 times the stock of batteries and somewhat more usage needed. They'll have enough for 12 minutes. I don't buy this. As countries move to net zero emissions, a target endorsed by President Joe Biden, the European Union and many others, costs will escalate much higher again. Okay. The Bank of America has found that achieving net zero costs $150 trillion over 30 years. Yeah. Over 30 years. That's not exactly that much. Almost twice the combined annual GDP of every country on Earth, the annual cost of $5 trillion is more than all the world's governments' households spend each year on education. Okay, that seems like a weird deflection. That estimate is based on the fanciful assumption that costs are spread efficiently, with big emitters, China and India cutting the most. But India says it will only keep moving towards net zero if the rest of the world pays it $1 trillion by 2030, something that won't happen. Most cuts will only likely happen in rich countries, which mean a relatively trifling cut to global emissions. Wrong. The rich world will get all the pain for little gain. The rich world is the one that's causing most of it, so yeah. Yes. In a new study, McKinsey finds that most of the poorest nations would have to pay more than 10% of their total national incomes each year towards climate policies. This is more than these nations combined spend on education and health. Okay? This is not only impossible, but also immoral on a continent where almost 500 million people still live in abject poverty. So it's up to us to mobilize in that direction. Research published in Nature finds that reducing emissions by just 80% will cost the United States more than $2.1 trillion every year from 2050, or more than $5,000 per person per year. The cost of achieving Biden's promise 100% reductions will be far higher. I don't think Biden's promised 100% reductions. I feel like that's a stretch. Putting this in context, the U.S. annual cost of World War II, like, he shifts into these wild, like, non-analogous examples. Estimated $1 trillion in today's money. The annual U.S. cost of World War II is estimated $1 trillion in today's money. Even by every year by 2050, climate policy would cost Americans more than twice what they paid for during the Second World War. Should things continue downstream? Yeah. Moreover, energy will turbocharge inflation. BOA estimates that it will lead to additional 3% of green inflation. This will reduce growth dramatically. Yes, the economy. Most people, and the unfortunate part is that people actually believe this, and people think of this as legitimate. Only when green energy is cheaper than fossil fuels will the world be able and willing to make the transition. Otherwise, today's green energy prices are just a taste of things to come. Wrong. Cheaper renewable energies are already a thing. That's it. right, folks. Unfortunately, it is about that time. Thank you guys. Oh, I'll check that out, Astro, for sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Folks, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. We have news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us for Saturday Saturday at noon Eastern Time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the YouTubes. Make sure you join the Discord for any updates on the channel. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. Thank you so much, all of you guys, for the new follows, all the support. Sorry, Alio, I'll get to your cute animal video tomorrow. I won't forget. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all and hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Oof, running short on time there, my friends. Oof. All right, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.